So this is a response to Bay Area Lynn's video, The Psychology of Conspiracy. And it's interesting because when I read the title, I was thinking something completely different than he was apparently when he made the video. I had been thinking about what I would describe as the psychology of conspiracy for a couple days at that point when the video first posted. So whenever I watched it, I had certain expectations like, oh, he's thinking exactly the same thing as me, which isn't quite true. Not because we necessarily have contradicting ideas, but I think because we're just looking at it completely differently. But anyway, let me say a couple things that I was thinking about. I'm curious what people have to say about them. And I'd also like to respond to a few very good points I think Lynn brings up in his video. What's been kind of bothering me is this idea that people seem to have where there will be 10 sources saying one thing, and then there will be the one source that says, no, they're all wrong, they're all trying to trick you. And you might expect most people would think, oh, well, these guys, there's 10 of them, they're all saying the same thing. They all seem to know what they're talking about, they're all experts. Well, but there's this one other expert, and he's saying the opposite, or he's saying they're wrong, or whatever it is. And people tend to, in some cases, give that single expert a lot more credence than they give to everyone else, to the mainstream. And they seem to have this idea that the mainstream is either fooled or confused or are out to trick them. And I won't say that this is always wrong. I mean, certainly there have been many times in history where you can point to and say, hey, look, it was true, it was a conspiracy. I'm not making this video to say that conspiracies are all wrong or anything like that. I'm actually just really curious about what people think about the psychology behind some of these phenomena. So I'll give you my own thought on this particular one. It's kind of, there's two different parts to it. One is people have this desire to be sort of in the know, to be let in on the secret, to be ahead of the game, to think, hey, you know what, all these other guys are suckers, but I got to figure it out. Everyone, including myself, has that. I read something from somebody, or I hear something that, the person's like, all this other research says this one thing, but you know what, I think I got it. Well, naturally, I listen more closely. I pay more attention as I'm looking at it, because for whatever reason, it's appealing to be, that one person who figures it out, to be, the person who's on top of it. I mean, I think it's interesting. And I think it's an interesting psychology. I'm curious what other people feel about it. I'm curious if other people feel the same way. Like I say, when I hear something like that, I recognize in myself that there's an attractiveness to it. There's an attraction to these alternative theories of how things are working, what's going on, that I'm curious about. And I think the other point that makes this happen sometimes, and this is different, and I think it even might affect a different category of people, or a different set of people who tend to follow into these conspiracies, or who really feed into these ideas. And that is a desire for the world to be a simple place. And this doesn't sound very intuitive at first, because these conspiracies are often these very sort of tangled, complex things. There's all these different interconnected factors that they're all sort of conspiring to this one particular goal. So that's definitely that's it doesn't seem like it's a desire for it to be simple, right? But to me, it seems like it is, because when you have a system where you can point out, well, this person is doing it, or you can say, rather than saying, the world's a fucking weird place, weird shit happens, because it does. Instead of just saying that, to be able to say, no, it's being caused by this person or these people, and they're doing it for this reason. To me, it sort of seems like almost like assigning motive to things where there's not always motive, I think. And certainly, sometimes there's motive. There are many cases where there have been conspiracies, where people have pushed political agendas. It happens all the time. I'm under no illusion that the government is this beneficent entity that's all out for the public good. I'm not that person. That's not what I'm saying. But I think that people want simple solutions to their problems. And anyone who watched the one other video I've made ever can sort of see where I might be coming from with this, where people want a simple answer. People don't want to hear about the complexities of biochemistry. People don't want to hear about what protein folds look like, or how conformational changes or membrane fusion. Nobody wants to hear about these things. Scientists, we spend years studying these things. We pay very, very much attention to the tiniest details in some of these things. But people don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear those answers that, hey, this is really complex. We don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. I don't have the answer. People don't want to hear that. Instead, what they want is they want somebody to say, there's an answer. This is it. Here it is. In this particular case, this was especially obvious because here you have somebody who was basically selling something saying, hey, this will cure you. This will keep you from getting sick. Afraid of the swine flu? Just take this. My point is, people have a desire not to have very complex systems explained to them when someone else could say, hey, here's a simple answer. It's almost like we have a preference for the sort of Occam's razor approach to problem solving, where, well, is it a simple solution? Does it make sense to us? Like in a kind of a common sense kind of way? Sounds good. And I think that's kind of dangerous thinking. And, sure, I'm biased, right? I spend a lot of time studying biology and chemistry. I think in a lot of cases, people don't want to listen to the experts because the experts say, hey, we're not sure, we're not certain, here's our best guess, and here's the piles of math behind it, or whatever. People don't want to hear that. So those are the two things that I think make conspiracies very attractive. And it kind of bothers me sometimes when people say, well, you people, you just want to live in your simple, easy world where everything is, all nice and everybody has your best interest at heart. Nobody's, there's no malevolent political mechanization behind anything. Nobody's trying to get one over on you. That's bullshit, I know that's what the world is like. I know that's the world. That's where we live. Don't doubt for a moment that I know that's where we live. But I think having someone give you simple solutions still feels better than the uncertainty that everybody feels, knowing that we live in this world and not knowing where it's coming from. We know the threat's out there. We don't know where it is. And it's very desirable to have someone say, hey, that's it. It's that guy right there. He's doing it. I would feel... I'd be happy if I felt like I could believe that.